Hey everybody, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. I just got the new grips and Hall sensor sticks from Retroid and I wanted to show them off here in this video. I'll do a real quick installation guide on the sticks and then we'll also talk about how the grips feel all together. Now these both went up for sale last month and you can find them directly on their website. They are charging $15 for the grips and there's 3 different colors. We have black, sky blue, and transparent. And as you probably figured out already, I ordered the black ones. Now the magnetic Hall sensor sticks can be selected as an add-on here to save on shipping, or you can just buy them on their own. And these also have multiple color options as well. In addition to black, you have light and dark gray. And one of the main reasons I wanted to try out these Hall sensor sticks is because of the price. At $10, they're about a third of the price of others that you can find online. And so let's go ahead and have a look. We're going to start with the grips first. These are made with a TPU material and have a soft kind of rubber feel to them. Now inside the grip there is a piece of hard plastic here, and I think that's meant to keep the Retroid Pocket in place. And the nice thing about having an official accessory like this is that everything's made to spec. And so for example, we have holes for all the ports available on the top and bottom. Now, first impressions on the overall feel is I actually really like it here. It doesn't seem to pick up any fingerprints, and it has a very dry or maybe even powdery kind of texture to it, and I really like that feeling. So yeah, overall, I really like the texture here, nice and soft and smooth. When it comes to the overall shape, I also think this has been well designed. They actually fit really well into the palm of the hands. But of course, the ultimate test is going to be when you add the Retroid Pocket 3 or 3 Plus to the grip. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now inserting the device is surprisingly easy because this TPU plastic kind of has a rubber and malleable feel to it. And so because of that, it just kind of slides right in, it's very easy to mount. And this is what it looks like right here, and yeah, it looks pretty good. I like the fact that the grips have a flare to the bottom of them, which means that your hands are going to angle in a little bit when you actually grab the grip. In this kind of setup, it's very natural to hold your index fingers over the trigger buttons, and so because of that, it feels a little bit more like a modern controller. And so overall, yes, I think this is a much more comfortable setup, especially when it comes to playing games with analog sticks and triggers. Now one thing that was a little bit off-putting to me is that I feel like the rubberized plastic is just a little bit too loose and forgiving. In fact, I feel that if I twist the grip enough, the device itself is going to pop out. Now, I'm not really sure this is ever going to happen when actually playing a game, and I bet it's pretty hard to find a real balance here as well, because you don't want it too soft so that the device pops out, but you don't want it too rigid so that it damages the device when you take it in and out. And so yes, I do feel like it could be a little bit more rigid, especially if you're the type of person who really manhandles their grip. But personally for me, I kind of play a little bit gently, and so it's probably not going to be an issue. I guess the best way to describe it is that if I was to hand this off to one of my kids, I would have to tell them to be gentle with it and make sure the device doesn't pop out. And that would probably be enough to prevent it from actually happening, but I also wonder what would happen if I didn't say that ahead of time. And so I guess that's my main concern right here, is that I wish that the plastic was just a little bit more rigid and harder. Let's take a closer look at the design now that we have the device inside. To start, you can see that the holes are here to make it easy to access either the buttons or ports, and they also have room on the back here for ventilation. And then finally on the bottom, we have holes for the speakers, the headphone jack, USB charging port, and the micro SD card slot. Okay, let's move over to the Hall sensor analog sticks next. Now the main draw here is that they have magnetic connections to them, which means that there's no physical contact. And additionally, as a result, we should not have any stick drift over time. Now everything we need is actually included in the packaging, so we're going to use these tools here to give you a more visceral and real experience. Now the sticks themselves look exactly like the original Retroid Pocket 3 sticks. These are modeled after the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, and the caps on them are a little bit shorter as well as smaller in diameter. So let's go ahead and do a quick installation so you get an idea of the entire process. To start, we're going to use the screwdriver with a Torx head to get off the 4 main screws here on the case. After that, we're going to use the guitar pick to go behind the shoulder buttons and then just kind of twist them until it pops open. I found that if you just twist on both of the 2 shoulder buttons, the entire thing will pop free. From there, you're going to want to use the Phillips head screw to remove the 4 screws that are attached to the edges of the heatsink here. That's that big metal thing right here. From there, we can remove the analog sticks. This is pretty easy too. All you have to do is just flip open that little connector lock right there to pull out the ribbon cable first. And you could either use your plastic tweezers for this or even just your fingers. After that, use the Phillips head screw to remove the 2 screws that are holding the analog stick in place. And here with a quick comparison between the two, yeah, they look to be the exact same size between them. So that means if you thought the analog sticks are a little bit too small, you're going to have the same experience here with the Hall sticks as well. But as it stands right now, yeah, they feel exactly the same as the old ones. Now reinstallation is about the same process. What I recommend doing is actually attaching the ribbon cable first, so that way you can kind of move the stick around as needed when you're doing that installation. So just kind of take your time and coax it in and then lock it into place. From there, just go ahead and take those 2 screws and add them back in. And you guessed it, we're going to do the exact same thing on the right. We're going to unscrew them, add the new stick here, and then screw them back into place while adding the ribbon cable beforehand. And honestly, that's all you really need to do. So let's go ahead and add the heatsink and those 4 screws again. And then we can add the back of the case again and then pop all the clips together. And then finally add our 4 case screws using that Torx screwdriver. And a quick test here for the feel, and yeah, these feel exactly the same. The same amount of resistance here and same size and height. Now in the end, I wouldn't actually call these bad analog sticks. They're just a little bit smaller than what I would like, especially when playing like a dual analog stick game. But when it comes to playing something like an arcade game, I think they work just fine. Now once you start your device back up, you're going to want to go in and calibrate these joysticks. You can do this by going into the Android settings, and then go down to handheld settings, and then input. From there, go into input control, and there's 2 places I recommend testing out. The first one's going to be the gamepad test. What I recommend doing here is tapping on the joystick icon for each of these and then selecting calibrate joystick. From there, you just want to push the joystick all the way around to the max range that you can. From there, just select save and then do it for the other analog stick as well. Once you're done with that, you can go ahead and test them out and they should give you a full range of motion. Now I've been told this calibration will reset itself anytime you power off the console, so let's do the other calibration tool as well. This one is also under the input section, but it's under joystick calibration. For this one, you want to press the L1 button and then move the joystick in whatever direction the app tells you to go. Now sometimes when you release it, it won't actually register, so what I usually have to do is just kind of tap it in the opposite direction and that'll usually catch. Anyway, same process here with the right analog stick, just press R1 and then follow the prompts. When you're done with each of these, it'll ask you to spin vigorously a few times, and then it'll say finish and press select to exit. And that's it, you're good to go when it comes to calibration. Now I'm going to use a third-party app called the Gamepad Tester right here to check the dead zones. And as you can see, I'm moving everything freely in all directions, so they seem to take really well. I also like to test the joystick smoothness just to make sure everything is nice and smooth. And also when you're not pressing on the stick, you should get a 0% reading, which means you're not getting any sort of drift. So overall, I think our sticks are good to go. Let's go ahead and start testing them out in actual gameplay. For this, we're going to use PS Play to remote play into my PlayStation 5. And yes, as a real-world test right here, everything feels nice and smooth. There's no sort of unregistered inputs or anything else like that. And honestly, it feels very much so like the original Retroid Pocket 3 or 3 Plus. Again, I wish these sticks were just a little bit bigger, but other than that, I don't really have any complaints. Now let's go ahead and add the grips and see how that changes the overall feel of when we're playing it. And yes, I would say this is way more comfortable. In fact, especially when it comes to games like this where you're going to be using both analog sticks, this feels a lot better. In fact, it makes it so that I'm not bothered that much about the low profile of the analog sticks. And so if, like me, you're kind of bothered by those low sticks, this might be a pretty good solution right here. And so I think if you're going to be playing some more modern games like this one here, these grips are going to be a great solution in the fact that they just make the controller itself feel a little bit more modern. Another side benefit here is that it makes it almost impossible to accidentally press the volume or home buttons with this grip. And while earlier I did mention that it is kind of easy to pop the device out, when actually playing it right here, it's not something that I would actively feel is going to happen. So in the end, yes, I think this is a good fit. Now it just so happens on the exact same day that the grips arrived, I also got some third-party ones from Etsy that arrived as well. And these ones here are pretty unique because in addition to being grips, they actually function as a case for the front as well. And these were sent over to me from Epic Printing Shop, and I'll have this linked in the video description below. And just like with the official Retroid grips, these cost $15 plus shipping. And they also have models available for the Retroid Pocket 2 or 2 Plus, as well as the Miu Mini and the RG351M. In addition, for the Retroid Pocket 3 and 3 Plus case, we have 7 different color options too. And this is what's kind of neat about these grips. For example, if you place them on the front of the device, they become a case to protect the screen as well as your buttons and analog sticks. In fact, there are specific holes right here for your buttons so they don't actually touch anything, and same thing with the D-pad and sticks. And additionally, you still have space for the USB port in case you want to charge it while in the case. Now here's where it gets interesting. If we actually take it off from the front of it, we can put it on the back and it becomes a pair of grips instead. And when you're using them as grips, they actually serve 2 different purposes, which is kind of neat. Number one, it makes the device quite a bit more thick, about twice as thick as it was before. And I think when it comes to just overall ergonomics and holding it in the hand, that's actually a very good thing here. Additionally, these flared sections of the edge act as their own grip as well. And while they do have a bit of a squarish feel to them, they're still very comfortable, a lot more comfortable than without them. And in direct comparison between the two, I would say that the official grips are going to be more comfortable. After all, they're quite a bit larger and then also flared, and so because of that, especially with modern games, it is going to feel more comfortable. But all the same, these grips are a big improvement over not having them at all. In the end, I think these Etsy grips just serve a different purpose in the fact that they can kind of work as a case to protect your device, But it's also kind of ingenious that you can put it on the back to be able to play games like that as well. In fact, after using either of these grips, I found that going back and just using the device itself without any grips at all was like a night and day difference between the two. Now, another thing I wanted to test is playing D-pad centric games like old retro games, but still using these grips. And when using the official Retroid grips, it is a more comfortable experience overall. In fact, I feel like I could play longer like this. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like a very authentic gameplay experience either. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the grips just feel very rounded. And so if anything, it reminds me of trying to play a retro game but using an Xbox controller. Yeah, it works, but it's also just a little bit awkward feeling too. Now, by comparison, using the 3D printed one from Etsy actually feels better when using retro games. And I think some of that has to do with the blockier feel of the grips on the back, but I also appreciate the fact that the grips add like a double thickness to the device overall too. And so it kind of transforms the experience from being something that's very sleek and slender without the grip to an experience that just feels a lot thicker and chunkier. And to me, this feels more like playing on an old Game Boy. And so I would say when it comes to playing more modern games, the Retroid grip definitely feels more comfortable, but when playing retro games, especially something where you're focusing on the D-pad, I actually like the 3D printed one a little bit better. Now, another thing I wanted to show is over the last weekend, I actually upgraded my Retroid Pocket 3 to a Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. And this conversion is pretty easy. What you do is you go onto the Retroid website and then you pay $85 for an upgraded PCB. From there, you just swap out the old parts with the new ones. Now, I didn't film the process because honestly, I treated it more like a Sunday project and it just kind of felt nice to not videotape something for once. And so because of that, I do not have an upgrade video that I'll be making anytime soon. But there are a couple other videos out there that show you this process and I'll leave them linked in the video description. Either way, if you have a Retroid Pocket 3 and you want to upgrade it to a 3 Plus, this is the path you would take. Now, while I was in there, I did another super secret thing. And that is, I added the Gillikit Hall Sensor Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons into this one. Now, I've already added these to other devices. In fact, I made a video about how to do it on the Odin Pro. And what I like about these is that they're a little bit bigger than the Retroid ones, and they also give a little bit more resistance too. But like I mentioned, they're about 3 times the price of the ones that you can find from Retroid. In fact, they're on sale right now, but it's still $26 for a pair. Either way, if you are interested, I'll have them linked below. Now, it's kind of hard to tell here on the camera after I've already installed them, but you should be able to see right here that they are a little bit wider and taller than the Hall sensor sticks from Retroid. And the difference here is pretty slight between the two. After all, they are fairly well recessed, but the main difference is going to be the amount of resistance between the Switch ones and the Retroid ones. For me, I've always felt like the Retroid joysticks, both on the stock and Hall sensor sticks, are just a little bit too flimsy or easy to press down on. Meanwhile, the Gillikit Switch ones have a good amount of resistance. In fact, they are more resistant than the stock Nintendo ones. And so if I had to choose between the two, I would definitely choose the Switch ones over the others. And they feel very good in the Retroid Pocket 3 and 3 Plus. And when you combine it with the Retroid grips, yeah, this is a very nice experience, especially if you're going to be playing analog stick heavy games. And so in wrapping things up here as we kind of get closer to the conclusion, I do really like the Gillikit sticks made for the Nintendo Switch. I definitely think they're an improvement over the stock sticks that come with your device and then also the Hall sensor sticks. But given the fact that these are $30 versus $10, I would say that these sticks are not 3 times better than the ones that come from Retroid. In the end, if you're looking for a different feel for your sticks, then the Hall sensor sticks from Retroid are not going to give you that. But if you are worried about having stick drift over time, it might be worth that upgrade. And honestly, given that they're only $10 before shipping, it's a pretty easy decision to make, especially if you're going to be buying something from Retroid already. Now, when it comes to the grips themselves, I think they are a major improvement when it comes to comfort and ergonomics. But of course, you have to bear in mind that it is going to add quite a bit of bulk to your overall gaming experience. And like I mentioned before, it's just a little bit too easy to pop the device out of the grips. I think if the grips were just a little bit more rigid, it would be perfect, but as it stands right now, yeah, just a little bit too soft for me. I've also come to really like the 3D printed grips from Etsy as well. I like the fact that it gives it a more blocky and chunky feel. It just kind of transports me a little bit back to the 80s and 90s. And of course, the fact that it also works as a case and cover to protect your device is pretty cool too. And so really that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching me play around with a bunch of different accessories, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Which grip do you like the best and why? And I'll have links to everything in the video description below in case you want to check any of these out. As always, thank you for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming.